Discover how a heartwarming ACT by the Maid changed the lives of 3 millionaires' crying children. Clara had seen her fair share of heartache. Working as a maid for the Harringtons, an affluent family in a suburban Ohio neighborhood, she'd witnessed the disparity between wealth and genuine happiness. Her hands ached from scrubbing floors, but it was her heart that felt heavy as she caught the sound of muffled sobs echoing from the grand playroom. Peeking through the door, she saw Mia and Jake, the Harrington children, sprawled on the plush carpet, surrounded by toys and books that had once captivated them. But now, their faces were wet with tears, their little hearts burdened by the loneliness that came from feeling utterly invisible in a house abundant with everything but love. Their parents, too caught up in their careers to notice, floated around the edges of their children's lives, missing every heartbeat of their sadness. Clara's chest tightened. She wanted to scream that wealth couldn't fill the void they felt, it only amplified it. As the days passed, Clara decided to step away from the typical duties of her job. She began leaving notes tucked between the pages of the children's favorite books. "You are loved. Dance like no one else watching." Or "Today is a great day for adventure." The first note brought a curious smile to Mia's face. It was the first flicker of joy Clara had seen in her eyes in ages. Then Clara organized scavenger hunts, one leading to a hidden treasure of glittering stickers, another to a cozy blanket fort in the corner of the playroom. Slowly, Mia and Jake began to laugh again, their spirits lifting, as they gathered together, mapping out their newfound joy amidst their lavish surroundings, yet, the Harringtons remained blissfully ignorant. Their world revolved around extravagant dinner parties and high-stakes business meetings, priorities entrenched in status and appearances. When a community charity gala approached, designed for the Harringtons to showcase their philanthropic efforts, Clara thought it might be the perfect occasion to cultivate empathy in the children. They should volunteer at the shelter, she suggested, her voice laced with hope. They need to learn the real value of community. But Mr. Harrington's dismissive snort sent a wave of frustration coursing through Clara. "Our status doesn't allow for such ventures," he retorted, eyes narrowed in disdain. The tension simmered in the air, igniting a quiet fire inside Clara. They may think they had it all, but she understood firsthand that status without connection was merely a gilded cage. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Just as the gala drew nearer, a shocking incident brought the Harringtons' reputation to the brink of disaster. Disaster was in the air, and Clara watched, heart racing, as Mia and Jake faced a choice that would challenge everything they'd learned. Would they step forward with accountability, having understood from her that helping others transcended wealth? Or would the pressure of social status, looming large as their parents glared, snuff out their newfound compassion? In that moment, Clara held her breath, teetering on the edge of despair and hope. The outcome seemed impossible to predict, and as the gala buzzed around her like a storm, she couldn't help but wonder whether her lessons on love and empathy would truly transform their lives, or if the relentless chase for status would triumph yet again. As the evening of the gala approached, the air buzzed with anticipation. Clara could feel the weight of expectation in the Harrington household. The grand ballroom was adorned with shimmering lights and elegant decorations that would make any socialite proud. Yet Clara's heart sank as she thought of Mia and Jake standing at the crossroads of their childhood, caught between the demands of their family's status and the kindness she had tried to instill in them. Clara watched as the children, dressed in their finest attire, fidgeted with their ties and skirts. Mia clutched her mother's hand tightly, seeking reassurance, while Jake's eyes darted around, glancing at the guests arriving, their laughter and chatter ringing hollow against the backdrop of Clara's mounting anxiety. "Mia, Jake," Clara called softly, kneeling to meet their gaze. "Remember what we've talked about? It's not just about being seen. It's about seeing others too. Their expressions faltered. Clara's words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. She saw a flicker of understanding, but then the shadow of uncertainty clouded their faces as they glanced back at their parents, who were busy directing the caterers and chatting with peers. The hour approached for Mr. and Mrs. Harrington to give their speech. Clara stood by, tidying the little details, an unkempt menu here, a crooked centerpiece there, but her focus remained on the children. The intense pressure their parents exuded weighed heavily on the kids, and a sinking feeling twisted Clara's stomach. It felt so unfair. Suddenly, a commotion erupted as flashes from cameras illuminated the room. Clara turned just in time to see a young boy from the shelter outside, the very shelter Clara had suggested for the kids to visit. He was not much older than Mia and Jake, standing there clutching a worn-out teddy bear. His clothes were patched and faded, but his eyes sparkled with a sincerity that cut through the polished atmosphere of the gala. In that moment, everything froze around Clara. Jake's eyes widened, and Mia clenched her mother's hand tighter, her internal struggle evident. Clara's heart beat faster. Would they comprehend the moment unfolding before them? The boy waved timidly, a hesitant smile spreading across his face as he called out, "Can anyone help? We need supplies at the shelter." Our friends. It was like the fragile bubble of exclusivity that engulfed the Harringtons burst, momentarily cracking the pristine surface of their world. Clara could feel the urgency propelling her forward, almost instinctively. "Help him. They need us," she whispered to Mia and Jake, her voice a gentle push. Mia glanced back at her mother, then at the boy, her expression shifting from confusion to a dawning realization. Jake, usually the more boisterous of the two, suddenly seemed contemplative. They were faced with a choice that could either lift them up or drown them in apathy. As Mr. Harrington's voice filled the room, drowning out the call for help, Clara's heart raced. This was the moment, a catalyst that could change everything. Would Mia and Jake stand with their family or step forward to embrace the boy's plea? The children looked at each other, a silent discussion passing between them. Clara kept her breath shallow, hope and anxiety intermingling in her chest. The second stretched unbearably. In that fragile space, a decision was brewing, a choice that would define not just the night but also their lives moving forward. But as the guests continued to dance and laugh, oblivious to the boy's plight, would the children follow the path of privilege or carve out a new road of compassion? Clara's heart ached with the uncertainty. Would they take a step towards tangible, real change? Or remain shackled to the expectations of a gilded life? She held her breath, waiting for the inevitable answer. The tension in the air was thick, almost suffocating. Clara felt as if time had slowed to a crawl as she watched Mia and Jake exchange glances. The boy's words echoed, piercing through the opulence that surrounded them. Clara's heart pounded louder with each passing second, the weight of her hopes resting on the small shoulders of the two children. Mia's brow furrowed, the internal battle apparent. Jake shifted his weight from one foot to the other, his youthful face caught between confusion and determination. Clara held her breath, wishing for a sign, something that would guide them. If only she could convey how vital this moment was. "Children," she said softly, a hint of urgency in her voice, "this is about more than just tonight. It's about who we choose to be." Moments dragged on, a cacophony of laughter and chatter enveloping them. Clara longed for the children to hear beyond the festivities, to feel the ache of kindness vibrating in the boy's plea. A flicker of realization ignited in Mia's eyes, but it wavered as they both turned toward their parents, comfortable in their world of privilege. "Mama," Mia finally said quietly, her voice almost lost in the din. "What should we do?" Every eye in the ballroom seemed to pause, as if waiting for Clara's answer. Clara's heart was a drumbeat of longing, filled with the hope that they could choose compassion over convenience. "Let us help him," she urged, her voice steady despite her racing pulse. "Let us show everyone what it means to care." Jake's expression shifted, the spark of recognition lighting up his features. He nodded slowly, taking Mia's hand. "Okay," he said, his voice stronger now, filled with purpose. As they stepped forward, Clara felt a rush of relief flood through her. Just then, the music faded, guests turned to see what was happening, drawn by the children's brave gesture. The murmur of confusion shifted to intrigue, eyes wide and hearts curious. The boy looked at them, surprise replacing the earlier disappointment on his face. "You really want to help?" he asked, hope flickering in those innocent eyes. "Yes," Mia exclaimed, her voice no longer wavering. "What do you need?" The crowd watched, a wave of mixed emotions washing over them. The grand gala, designed to exalt the Harrington name, now simmered with the potential for change. Clara stood back, tears pricking her eyes as she witnessed the dawning of empathy in Mia and Jake, fueled by the power of simple kindness. "Yeah," Jake chimed in, a newfound confidence filling his voice. "We can do this together." The boy's smile lit up the room, and as he began to explain their need for supplies, Clara felt a warmth blooming deep within her. This wasn't just a chance for Mia and Jake, it was an awakening. Perhaps the moment would ripple far beyond the ballroom, perhaps their decision to step outside their privilege could alter the stories of countless others, but just as the conversation gained momentum, Clara noticed Mr. Harrington's face paled. He stepped forward, the frustration simmering beneath the surface. "What's happening here?" "This isn't the place for Dad," Mia interrupted, her voice steady yet filled with youthful defiance. "We're helping." The defiance hung in the air, a challenge against the backdrop of opulence. All eyes were fixed on the scene unfolding before them, the tension delicate yet powerful. Would Mr. Harrington step in to shut this down? Would his fury snuff out the light that had just flickered to life in his children? Clara knew what was at stake now. This wasn't just about Mia and Jake, it was about shaking the very foundation of their lives. But could a single word turned toward compassion change the trajectory of their future? As she awaited the unfolding drama, Clara's heart raced with uncertainty. Would this moment lead to transformation, or would it mark another missed opportunity in the shadow of privilege? Clara's breath caught as she watched Mr. Harrington's expression darken, his jaw clenched tightly. The guests at the gala shifted uncomfortably, some whispering to one another, their eyes darting between the children and their uncertain father. "Mia, Jake, this isn't a game," Mr. Harrington's voice was low, a quiet thunder that threatened to drown out the music still playing from the corner of the ballroom. "You don't have to involve yourselves in things you don't understand." "But we do understand." Jake shot back, the courage in his voice surprising even him. His grip tightened around Mia's hand, as if drawing strength from her resolve. "This isn't just about the party. That boy needs help." Clara stood frozen, a tidal wave of pride and fear crashing over her. She had hoped for change, but wasn't ready for the storm it might unleash. The ballroom, once filled with laughter and clinking glasses, had transformed into a battleground of beliefs, divided by generational lines and the weight of privilege. Mia stepped forward, a small figure but with a heart bigger than her frame. "Dad, he needs food and clothes. And we have so much. We can share." Her words sliced through the tension, drawing sympathetic murmurs from around the room. The boy, standing beside them, seemed buoyed by their bravery. Clara could see the flickers of hope igniting in his eyes again, and it lit a fire in her own heart. Could their young voices carry enough weight to challenge the old norms that kept them stuck? Mr. Harrington's face turned a shade darker, his brows furrowing in frustration. "This is not your decision to make," he began, but Mia didn't let him finish. "It is our decision, Dad," she asserted, her voice rising above the murmurs. "This is about what's right." At that moment, Clara felt a shift in the atmosphere. It wasn't just their voices anymore, a ripple of agreement stirred among the guests. Conversations sparked to life, people leaning in, wanting to hear more, wanting to join this brave act of kindness. "Why don't we take a collection?" someone from the crowd suggested, their voice rising in the charged space. "We could all help, big or small." "Yes," Jake exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. "Let us do it." Heart pounding, Clara could hardly believe what was happening. The ballroom that had been a fortress of elitism was now buzzing with the energy of compassion. She could see it evolving, guests whispering ideas, forming a plan, shifting their minds and hearts to Mr. Harrington hesitated, his authoritative facade fraying as he took in the burgeoning movement surrounding his children. Clara noticed a change in him, a vein of uncertainty threaded through his anger. "This isn't a charity, it's a party," he retorted, but there was a crack in his armor. The sound of clinking coins began to rise. Guests were already pulling out wallets, tossing bills into a makeshift collection box hastily formed from a decorative basket. The shift was palpable, she could feel it vibrating through the crowd. Clara's heart swelled with hope now, fighting against the uncertainty swirling inside her. When had kindness become so radical? Yet here it was, blooming before her very eyes. Even the boy, his timid demeanor replaced with a budding sense of belonging, smiled now, a light breaking through the clouds of doubt that had long lingered over him. As Mia and Jake stood resolute at the center of this growing kindness revolution, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. Just then Mr. Harrington, looking more defeated than Clara had ever seen him, took a step backward. His voice trembled slightly. "You're going to regret this," he warned, but the underlying tragedy of that statement resonated deeply within her. Would this hold? Would the currents of resistance and change strengthen, or was the moment slipping away like sand through fingers? As the donation basket filled up, Clara's eyes darted toward the entrance. She felt the pulse of excitement, but also the looming shadow of uncertainty. Where would this journey take them? Could compassion truly reshape a family's legacy? Mia and Jake's boldness had ignited a spark, but would that fire be enough to light the path ahead? She could hardly wait to see how deep this act of kindness could go. Clara's heart raced as she watched the collection basket filling up. The energy in the room was electric, alive with purpose. She couldn't shake off the feeling that they stood on the edge of something monumental. Guests were no longer whispering out of discomfort, they were chiming in, sharing ideas, proposing more ways to help. It was as if a dam had burst within the crowd. Mr. Harrington's face, rigid with authority, was unrecognizable now. There was a flicker of confusion mingled with disbelief in his eyes. Clara had always seen him as a man who found solace in control, in rules that kept them all neatly tucked into their affluent lives. But tonight, that control seemed to slip through his fingers like water. Mia and Jake stood defiantly, the heroes of the evening, their voices rising above the throng. Mia's cheeks flushed in determination, and Clara couldn't help but admire her. Who would have thought such fierce conviction would bloom in her daughter? It ignited a flicker of hope within Clara, expanding in her chest like a warm glow. "Let us not stop at just collecting money. We can make care packages too," someone called from the crowd. The idea surprised Clara but brought forth a wave of excitement. Could they actually gather enough supplies to help? Yes. We can include clothes and hygiene products. Jake added, his eyes gleaming with inspiration. The guests moved with urgency, pulling out their phones and taking to social media, spreading the word about this spontaneous act of kindness. Clara watched, astonished, as new donations flowed in, both monetary and material. Bags filled with clothing, food, and blankets began to pour in from every corner of the ballroom. It became a hive of activity, a surge of camaraderie in a place where isolation had reigned. Amid the whirlwind, she noticed the boy, who had once stood silently in the shadows. Now, he was held by the collective warmth of a community that connected through shared humanity. She could see a flicker of hope burgeoning in his eyes, a sign that this night might change everything for him. "Dad," Mia said, her voice breaking through the noise, "you can't keep ignoring this." Her tone was firm, unwavering. Clara marveled at her courage. It's not just about money or status. It's about people. Real lives. Mr. Harrington's eyes searched the crowd, at once proud and defeated, before settling back on his children. "You think this is going to change anything?" he asked, more of a challenge than a question. They won't remember this tomorrow. But we will, Jake countered, stepping forward. His words stirred something in the crowd. We'll remember what we did together. And maybe it won't change the world, but it can change just one person's life. Isn't that enough? Clara watched as Mr. Harrington's expression wavered. The air grew thick with anticipation, a collective breath held in place. The challenge to uphold a tradition of coldness was slipping into something warm, a feeling like sunlight piercing through clouds. Maybe, Mr. Harrington whispered, though it hung in the air like a prayer. Clara felt the weight of it, her heart pounding as she dared to hope. The chorus of agreement rippled through the crowd. Clara could hardly believe what she was witnessing. Hearts were opening, barriers crumbling, and they were all together in this strange new world they were creating. But as the excitement climbed, she felt a nervous tingle of uncertainty. If they succeeded, what would happen next? Would Mr. Harrington fight this surge of kindness, or would he join them, forever altering the dynamics of their family? The thought hung in the air like a question begging to be answered, as Clara's eyes drifted back to the boy. His smile, once small and unsure, now shone like a beacon of hope. Was it too late to change everything? Or was this just the beginning? Clara was lost in the moment, caught in the whirlwind of hope and possibility swirling around her. She glanced at Mr. Harrington, who now seemed on the brink of an emotional revelation. Perhaps for the first time, she saw a flicker of vulnerability behind his austere facade. It sent a jolt through her system, mingling anxiety with anticipation. "Everyone, let us gather in groups," Mia shouted, her voice rising above the joyous chaos. "Let us organize the donations, make sure we know what we have and what we still need. We can make a real difference." Cheers erupted from the crowd, spurred on by her energy. Clara felt a swell of pride. Her daughter was more than just a spectator, she was a catalyst for change. As people formed lines, sharing laughter and camaraderie, Clara watched how the atmosphere shifted. It was no longer just an event, it had transformed into a movement, but amid the sea of activity, Clara's gaze returned to the boy. He was still in the corner, moving closer to the center, his uncertainty battling against the flames of hope ignited all around him. There was something poignant about his struggle. He was holding on to hope as if it were a fragile shell, one that might crack if he let go too soon. Suddenly, the doors swung open, and a gust of fresh air swept through the ballroom. A woman stood framed in the doorway, breathless and wide-eyed. She was older, wearing a simple dress that spoke of modesty, her hair slightly bedraggled. "I heard there's something meaningful happening here. I have supplies. I can help," she called out, her voice trembling with urgency. The room hushed, then buzzed like a beehive as guests rushed to her side. Clara felt a rush of emotion flood her heart. There it was again, the realization that kindness was not just confined to the well-off, it was universal, transcending barriers of wealth and privilege. For every donation, there was a story, a hidden struggle, a flicker of struggle leading to this moment of action. Mia rushed to the woman, her enthusiasm contagious. "Thank you so much. What do you have?" she asked, radiant in her eagerness. As the woman shared items from her bag, blankets, canned goods, even stuffed animals, Clara noticed the boy inching closer. He hesitated for just a moment, then stepped forward, his small hands reaching out, trembling slightly. Clara's breath caught in her throat. He carefully picked up a soft teddy bear from the pile. Yes, it was just a toy, but to him, it could mean everything. As he clutched it close, his smile widened, painting his face in pure, unadulterated joy. In that instant, Clara felt tears sting the corners of her eyes. She was witnessing a shift, not just in the boy but in countless hearts around him. Everyone deserves a chance, Clara thought, feeling the weight of that sentiment pull at her. But what about Mr. Harrington? Would he continue to fight this tide of change, this swell of compassion? As if sensing her uncertainty, Mr. Harrington finally moved. He stepped forward, his eyes glistening with unshed emotions. Maybe, he began, his voice steady yet vulnerable, maybe we can do more than just this one night. What if we came together and made this a regular thing? Gasps filled the space, and Clara's heart soared. This was the moment. It was as if the world had paused, all eyes turning toward her husband, anticipation high. Would he commit to this new path? But then, just as doubt began to creep in, a commotion caught her attention. A surge of energy rippled through the ballroom, and Clara turned to see a group of older teens had arrived with large boxes, announcing they had organized a clothing drive of their own. The joy was palpable, the room electric again. Clara felt hope blooming, yet something else lingered, an awareness that this was but the beginning of a journey, both for those in need and for her family. What did all of this mean for them moving forward? And could they truly navigate this newfound compassion without resistance from the past? As the scene unfolded before her, Clara realized the answers were far from certain, but the time for hesitation was over. The house of cards had started to tumble. What would they do next? Would the Harringtons embrace this change together, or would they let the past pull them apart? The sound of laughter and chatter filled the ballroom like a warm blanket, wrapping everyone in an embrace of hope. Clara's heart was still racing from Mr. Harrington's unexpected proposal. As he stood there, the crowd around them a whirlwind of excitement and energy, she felt a torrent of emotions wash over her: relief, joy, but also a nagging worry. Could they really sustain this momentum? Mia, bubbling with enthusiasm, began sorting through the clothing brought in by the older teens. "Look at this!" she exclaimed, pulling out a bright red jacket that seemed to sparkle in the ballroom lights. "This will be perfect for someone who needs it." Clara watched her with pride, her daughter embodying everything they were striving for. The boy with the teddy bear hadn't left her mind. He was still standing in the same spot, a small beacon of happiness amidst the chaos. She wondered what he would do next. Would he take home that simple toy and share in the warmth of community, or would he fade back into the shadows of doubt, carrying her own bag filled with supplies? The woman who had first stirred the crowd was now engaged, inspiring others to contribute in ways they hadn't considered before. Her voice was a steady stream in the atmosphere, marking each donation with a piece of her own story. As she talked, Clara felt her fingers tightening around the strap of her bag. There was something almost infectious about her energy. Then, the woman turned her gaze toward Clara. "You know, we all carry a weight in our hearts," she said softly, her eyes brimming with kindness. "It takes just one act of courage to lighten it." Clara felt seen in that moment, her own struggles laid bare despite the warmth swelling around her. She approached the woman, feeling the tangible bond forming between them. "Thank you for showing us the way," Clara said, swallowing hard. "Thank you for being willing to step forward," the woman replied, a grin breaking across her tired face. "It's families like yours that can truly spark change." At that moment, Mr. Harrington, still standing amidst onlookers, cleared his throat. "Listen, everyone," he called. "We have a chance to do something bigger than ourselves. If we can come together tonight, imagine what we can achieve long-term. We can create a network of support, something that lasts beyond our resources here." The room fell silent, but only for a beat. Then, a surge of murmurs and scattered applause reverberated through the space, igniting a sense of unity that Clara hadn't witnessed in a long time. But in the midst of all this, doubt tugged at her heart. Would they really follow through? In this moment of hope, Clara felt the weight of history behind them, the fear of failure, the pressure of expectations. Could Mr. Harrington truly be committed to this vision, or would he retreat into old habits once the dust settled? Her thoughts were interrupted by the sight of the boy again. He had moved closer, standing just at the edge of the crowd, clutching the teddy bear as if it were a treasure. Clara caught his eye, and the two of them shared a smile, a small, genuine moment that seemed to convey everything words couldn't. Then, the doors swung open once again, and Clara turned to see yet another wave of newcomers entering. Families joined by families. Boxes stacked high with supplies and gifts. The energy shifted as these new faces radiated enthusiasm. She felt the warmth spread, a current of compassion flowing through the room. The moment hung heavy with promise and uncertainty. Clara looked at Mr. Harrington, searching his face for answers, for commitment. Would he embrace the challenge of change, or would he falter when faced with the reality of what this all meant? Before she could voice her thoughts, the lights flickered, and a hush fell over the group. All eyes turned toward the entrance once more. And that's when Clara saw it, a figure stepping into the light, one she never expected to see again. The realization crashed over her with the weight of a tidal wave. What could this arrival mean for their plans? What hidden truths would it unleash within their family? As the crowd held its collective breath, Clara felt the stakes rise. The journey they were on was only beginning, and she wondered if they were truly ready for the changes ahead. The figure stepping into the light was unmistakable. It was Grace, Clara's estranged sister, a woman she hadn't seen in nearly a decade. The crowd buzzed softly as Clara's heart pounded in her chest. What was Grace doing here now, of all times? The warmth of the ballroom suddenly felt heavy, as if the air itself held the weight of their lost years. Grace's appearance was striking. She looked just as Clara remembered, her long hair cascading down her back, a flicker of uncertainty dancing in her hazel eyes. But there was something different about her too. It was as if life had carved lines of experience onto her face, a testament to the struggles she had faced alone. For a moment, Clara's mind raced, memories crashing over her like waves. Is that Grace? Mia whispered, her hand squeezing Clara's arm. The innocent question pulled Clara back to the present. She felt a surge of emotion, a mix of anger, concern, and an aching love for the sister she had lost. Before she could react, Grace's gaze swept across the room, and finally landed on Clara. Time stood still as their eyes locked. Clara's breath hitched. Would there be recognition? Regret? A flicker of hope? Clara, Grace called out, her voice trembling slightly in the stillness. It cut through the chatter, bringing attention back to the entrance. Faces turned, curiosity poised, as Clara felt the moment hang between them. Why are you here? Clara managed, her voice breaking under the weight of years unsaid. The words felt charged, a release of all the bottled-up emotions she had tucked away. Grace stepped forward, and the crowd parted slightly. I came to help if you'll let me, she said, her eyes darting to the supplies being collected, the families coming together. I've seen what happens when people don't come together. I want to make things right. Clara's heart flickered. Could this be true? Could her sister really want to change? As Clara struggled to process her feelings, Mr. Harrington took a step forward. Every contribution counts, Grace. Will you share your story with us? Grace hesitated, the crowd's expectant gaze on her felt like a weight. I've faced some tough times, she said, her voice steadier now. When my life fell apart, I realized how important community is. We have to lean on each other. That's how we survive. The raw honesty in her words struck a chord. Clara could see it on the faces of the families in front of her. They, too, were looking for reassurance, a reminder that strength lies in connection. The murmur of voices returned as Grace stepped further into the light, gaining confidence. Clara shifted, torn between holding on to her past hurts and embracing the possibility of healing. She wanted to be angry, to shout at Grace for the years stolen, but something deeper pulled her closer to the truth. Let us brainstorm together, Mr. Harrington suggested, directing the crowd to gather around Grace. They needed fresh perspectives, more ideas. Clara could feel the energy lifting, hope bubbling back into the room as the crowd began to engage. Though mistrust lingered in the corners of her heart, Clara couldn't help but wonder if this was a sign of chance, not just for her family, but for the community they were trying to forge. Could Grace truly be the bridge they needed? But then doubt surged once more. What if this was a fleeting moment? What if Grace walked away again? Clara's heart wrestled with itself, ready to open but terrified of the consequences. As conversations ignited around her, Clara took a deep breath and let her eyes drift back to Grace. This was it. The pivotal moment where they either stepped forward together or let the past linger in the shadows. Could this gathering of hope also heal the rift between sisters? The tension was palpable, the room alive with possibilities and questions. Clara took a step closer to Grace, feeling the electricity of chance in the air. What would she say? Would she dare to trust their futures tangled together in an unexpected twist? The answer depended on the courage they both found in themselves and what awaited them on the other side of this moment. The room felt electric, a heartbeat thrumming in Clara's ears as the crowd buzzed all around her. A whirlwind of emotions clawed at her insides, each thought vying for attention. Grace stood there, looking both vulnerable and strong, just as she had years ago when they last shared laughter and secrets. Clara noticed the shift in the audience. No longer just a bystander, Grace was stepping into a role many were hungry for: a leader, a healer. Murmurs rippled through the gathering. Hands moved animatedly as neighbors shared ideas about how to support those affected by recent hardships. Clara's heart swelled with a blend of hope and fear as she watched Grace gain momentum. "Can you believe it?" Mia asked, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Grace is really here and seems different." Clara nodded, mirroring her friend's astonishment while battling her own conflicts. Every fiber of her being wanted to rush forward, wrap her arms around her sister and forgive her for the pain of the past. But what if Grace was still that unreliable person who vanished in the dark of night when they needed her most? Grace's voice broke through Clara's spiraling thoughts as she continued, sharing stories of her struggles. "I've learned through hard times that we need each other to find light in the darkness. We can do more when we're united." Her passion drew everyone in closer, the heaviness of years apart beginning to evaporate under Grace's sincerity. Tears glimmered in the corners of Clara's eyes. Memories of laughter, arguments, and shared dreams flooded back: high school dances, late-night talks under the stars. They were once a force together. How had they drifted so far? Clara longed for the sister she lost and wondered if this moment held the potential to revive their connection. As Clara took another hesitant step towards Grace, she caught a glimpse of the room's energy. Faces softened, some nodded in agreement, and others listened intently, captivated. A child in the front row clutched a stuffed bear, eyes bright with hope, and Clara felt a pang in her chest. Would this child bear witness to the beginning of something transformative? "Let me help with the outreach," Clara heard herself say, her voice surprising even her. "If Grace wants to be part of this, I can't just stand by." The energy in the room shifted again. Heads turned, with surprise and spark igniting in eyes that recognized a chance for unity. Clara could feel the eyes of the crowd on her now, curious and expectant. "Are you sure you're ready for this?" Mia leaned close, anxiety etched in her brow. "This is intense, Clara. What if she disappears again?" "I don't know," Clara admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But what if she stays?" In that moment, unshackled from doubt, they pulled together, sisters and strangers alike. Clara's heart raced with cautious optimism. The fear of loss danced alongside the thrill of possibility. She locked eyes with Grace, and for the first time in ages, Clara felt she was not alone. And then, Grace smiled. It was soft yet profound, a light glimmering in the abyss they once lived. "Let us create a plan, together," she offered, her voice steady, sincere. "Let's build a place where every family can find support, comfort in a chaotic world. I want to show you both that I'm here to stay." Clara's pulse quickened. This was it. The point of no return. Would she take the leap? Just as she was about to affirm her commitment softly, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room. All heads turned, anticipation shifting once again. What had just shattered their moment of revelation? Would it forge even stronger links between Clara and Grace, or would it throw them back into the shadows of doubt once more? The crash startled everyone, interrupting the flicker of hope that had sparked so brightly moments before. Clara felt her heart drop as people turned to see what had happened. A table had tipped over, dishes scattering across the floor like miniature meteors, gleaming plates bouncing and shattering in a chorus of chaos. But as the crowd gasped, Clara's gaze remained on Grace. The moment of connection they had just begun to forge, one that felt so fragile yet powerful, seemed at risk of crumpling under the weight of the unexpected. Perhaps it was a metaphor for everything they were trying to build, a test of their resolve. Without thinking, Clara moved forward to help. She reached down to pick up a glossy plate, just as Grace reached for a few scattered silverware pieces. Their hands brushed lightly, a shared spark igniting between them. Clara looked up and saw Grace's eyes. There was determination there, a sense of purpose building, as if the crash had rallied them together in silent solidarity. "Let us get this cleaned up," Grace shouted, her voice cutting through the tension. Mia and Jake joined in, and soon others followed, linking arms as they began to reclaim the space that had so recently felt alive with possibility. Laughter bubbled up as they worked together, a spontaneous act of unity blossoming from a mere mishap. Clara could feel the energy shifting again, a new wave of determination sweeping the room. As they gathered the shards and tidied the scattered leftovers, Clara found her thoughts racing. This was a challenge, not just of broken china but of rebuilding relationships, her family's bond, her sister's presence. "Maybe this is how we begin," Clara murmured to Grace. "With a mess we can clean up together?" With a smile, Grace nodded. "Exactly. We can take the chaos and turn it into something beautiful." The surge of adrenaline made Clara feel as if they were already on a path toward progression. They worked hand in hand, and as the room rearranged itself, identities as families transformed into a cohesive unit. They were no longer just individual families, they were part of a community coming alive, rising together. With every piece of debris collected, Clara noticed how others began sharing stories about their own hardships and the importance of community, how they, too, had felt alone in their struggles. The ballroom echoed with voices of support and hope as they spoke, the very air filling with a promise of meaningful connection rather than ties of status. As they finished cleanup, Mr. Harrington stood up once more, his presence commanding attention. This time, there was a hint of vulnerability shimmering in his expression. "Maybe this is our chance to redefine who we are," he began, sounding a bit different than before. "I realize tonight is a turning point for all of us." Clara held her breath. Would he truly embrace the sentiment they had all fought to establish? We can't keep living inside a bubble of wealth without acknowledging what lies beyond our walls. I want to support these efforts for change. He glanced at his children, who were beaming, and Clara felt a rush of pride fill her. Perhaps tonight had changed them all. The crowd erupted in applause as they recognized the shift in the family's trajectory. Clara watched Mia and Jake look to their father, saw the pride illuminating their faces. They had found their truths amidst the debris of privilege. Then, amidst the cheering and clapping, Clara turned to Grace once more. Their eyes locked, and Clara wasn't just flooded with memories but also with hope. What had once seemed impossible now looked like it could be built, a bridge toward healing through family and community ties. Grace leaned in, her voice soft. "Together, we can make sure no one feels alone in this world. I want to be part of that." "Yes," Clara found herself replying, her heart soaring. "Together, we can create something bigger than ourselves." As the conversations blossomed and plans were formed, Clara felt uplifted, a warmth spreading through her soul. This was just the beginning of new chapters, not only for her family but for everyone present. The courage they had shown in addressing their past would be the foundation for a future filled with support and understanding. Holding Grace's hand in that moment, Clara knew that this wasn't just about reconciliation, it was about transformation. In brokenness, they had found beauty, and in despair, they had unearthed strength. The ballroom, a space once evident of division, now resonated with harmony. Clara smiled, feeling the tapestry of their lives weave closer together. They stood on the brink not just of a journey for the Harringtons but for an entire community ready to rewrite their narratives, and as the night unfolded with laughter and renewed commitments, the promise of change shimmered in the air. Now was the time to act, to create a better tomorrow for themselves and for everyone, together. A new chapter awaited. If you felt the transformation tonight, subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now. You can also leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It truly helps. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation, this change. Let us spread hope and community together. Comment below your reactions and heartfelt feelings about this ending. This is the moment to show your support.